We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Blog Talk Radio.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
All right, good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome to the season finale, season 12 finale, actually, of Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and we've got a great show to end the season. We've got a full, and I mean a full panel here on the Coach's Corner segment of the show, and I'm looking forward to having these guys on to sort of send us off for a couple of reasons, the season finale being number one, and also this will be the last show on this platform, blogtalkradio.com, as they are packing it in, as they say, at the end of January of next year. So all of the, and I'll tell you a little bit more as the show progresses, but all of the archive shows have been transferred over to Spreaker.com, and I'll give you more details, as I said, a little bit later on. So you can go back and listen to all of the previously aired shows, including tonight's will be there after the broadcast. And then next year, we're going to be moving to a new platform. Looks like after checking into a number of different good ones out there, that it's probably going to be going to Riverside.fm, which is actually both video and audio platform. So I'm really excited about that, and we're going to be doing a few tests throughout the off season. But we're going to take an extended break, and I'll be off the rest of this year in 2024 to obviously partake in the holiday festive season, and then the month of January, and then probably even a few weeks into February before we start back up for the regular show, and then the Coach's Corner will be starting up typically the first Thursday of March of next year. So excited about that, but let me introduce the guys, and then we will get into tonight's panel discussion, and then later on I'm going to be joined by Alex Prasad. He is the CEO of V1 Sports. He's going to be joining us on this last broadcast here on blogtalkradio.com. First up, of course, is John Decker, the Director of Instruction at Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio. He's also a senior contributing editor and a top 25 instructor with Golf Tips Magazine. Formerly, he was the head instructor at the Grand Cypress Academy of Golf in Orlando and was the 2015 Southern Ohio Teacher of the Year. He's authored 2 books, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, and Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. He's also available for public speaking, and he'll tell you a little bit about how you can do that, arrange that at the end of the broadcast. And also joining us tonight is Pete Buchanan. He's been teaching this great game of golf now for over 30 years. He's the founder and director of instruction of Plain Simple Golf LLC. And, of course, it houses the Plain Simple Golf Circuit and the Simple Swing Repeater Training Brace. And he's been helping golfers focus on building a repeatable swing for many, many years now. Also on the panel tonight is John Hughes, PGA Master Professional and the honorary president of the North Florida PGA section. He was the recipient of the 2013 PGA of America's Professional Development Award and also a senior contributing editor and Golf Tips Magazine Top 25 instructor. And in 2023, he received the North Florida PGA Teacher and Coach of the Year honors. So congratulations again on that, John. And last but certainly not least is Clint Wright, a 30-year-plus member of the PGA and one of the partners at TGM Golf. And TGM, of course, has been a big proponent of the R3 approach and certainly among the best covering the short game. And with the rest of these guys as a favorite here on Coach's Corner. So, guys, welcome to the Coach's Corner panel, the last one of 2024.
Glad to be here, Ted.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks, Ted.
Happy
all right,
holidays, all.
Yeah, happy holidays. Who's going to do the ho, 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 figuratively speaking? Come on, Clint. I think you're the oldest here, so it's up to you, no?
What's that, the ho, ho, ho? No, I'm not the oldest one here. Not a chance.
Yeah. All right. And John Decker, I see you made it on the panel as well, so thanks for climbing on, and I appreciate you being here as well.
Thank you, Ted. Sorry I had some technical difficulties, but looking forward to being on with you tonight.
So we have the four of you on tonight for two reasons. One, as I was mentioned to the guys earlier on, I had to back out of last week. So two of you that were scheduled last week are coming on because it's the last show of the season. And I thought we would do something interesting. So I don't know whether you guys realize this or not, but I went back and looked into a little bit of the history of Coach's Corner. And I saw that we officially started this panel discussion team. So it's about 11 years now. The show has been on the air for 12, and it was the second year that I started the Coach's Corner panel segment. So you guys have been coming around, most of you anyways, for pretty much all. I know John for sure. Clint, I think you were pretty close. John Decker, I think it was maybe a year or two after that. And Pete, I think you were pretty much from the get-go as well. So, yeah, you guys have been around for a number of years on the panel.
Yeah, don't need to remind us, you know.
That we're all getting older.
Yeah, we're all getting older. But it's been fun. It really has been.
Yeah, it has been.
So here's my question for you guys, and I'm going to ask of each of you, and I'll start off in the order that I introduced you. So it'll be Decker, Pete, and Hughes, and then Clint. And I'm using the last names of two of them, obviously, because they both have the first name of John. What was something, John, that, and it's Decker I'm talking to, something that you took away from your fellow panelists over the years? What was maybe one thing that you, of doing all of these shows you've been on with, pretty much I think each of you have been on with one another at some point throughout the 11 years. And I just want you to, maybe if there's something specific, maybe a moment in one of the discussions that something kind of resonated with you that one of your fellow panelists that was talking about, you thought, I'm going to think about that a little bit more myself and maybe, give it a little bit deeper thought. Was there anything that sort of struck your mind over these years that you took away from one of your fellow panelists? And you don't need to mention them if you don't want to, but if you do, that's fine.
Well, Ted, that's a great question. Yes, I'll go ahead. Actually, from Clint, he's always talking about the third shot and how important it is. And it's something that I think about in golf. It is, because most every student we teach is going to have a third shot, and setting that up, and for most golfers are not going to hit greens and regulate. So learning to really be efficient at that third shot, whether it's chipping or pitching, or maybe it might even be a third shot. Maybe that you don't. Maybe there's listeners out there who don't hit the ball as far as they can, and so they have to kind of play to that position. So it's more of the strategy, and so that's something that being on with Clint, and I was on with Clint, it's funny because each year, some years you'll get on with the same, instructor every show, and other years, this year I've been on with Clint nearly as much as I have in the past. That was probably one that stands out. And, I've been with, John Hughes as well quite a bit, and I've learned a lot from him, especially more in the club fitting side. I think he does a really good job of explaining that. And with Pete, he's more golf swing, and So I always like to listen to that because I teach more of a path, but path and plane, can be related when you're talking about the golf swing. So just really from all through the panel guests tonight that we have, I've learned something from all of them.
Everybody still there?
Is there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm sorry. I muted myself. Pete, I'm sorry. It's you. So what was something that you took away from your – yeah, technical issues.
It's okay.
My senior moment, as I say. So what was something that, Pete, that you took away from your fellow panelists? And it can be just one or a couple if you want to mention. With all of the Coaches Corner panels that you've been on, there's obviously something that's resonated with you from one of your fellow professionals. What's your thoughts?
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. GTL. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Lowe's knows that no matter your paint or stain project, saving is at the top of your to-do list. Save now with buy one, get one half off select paints, stains, and primers from top brands like Valspar, HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams, and Cabot via Visa gift card rebate. Find more Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. We help, you save. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details. Offer valid 5/15 through 5/28.
I think more than anything else, it's just a collective. Even if you take all of the other three that are on tonight, just a collective of how they approach the game, the different ways they go about it, and looking at being prepared for shots and the different types of practices that you do. I think it's been pretty unique to listen to how, different instructors go about, how they're going to teach certain areas of the game. And you can always find something in that that's going to help you, to pass on to not only yourself, but to your own clients. And so I think for me, it's just been, listening to how they approach the game, how they approach teaching and how they prepare themselves for the different situations that they're going to come up against. I think that for me has been something that's been pretty cool to listen to and to try to work into some of the things that I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it's always good to listen to, different approaches. I think we always all learn something a little bit new. And I think we each probably have taken little nuggets here and there throughout the season. So great answer as well. John Hughes, what about you? I know you offer a lot of very savvy tips along the way, but I imagine you've pulled a few nuggets yourself from some of your fellow professionals. So what were some of the takeaways for you?
I got to piggyback with Pete and the various different approaches and methods. Just I would say it a little bit differently in that we all say things differently, but really come to somewhat of the same conclusions that hopefully the listeners can understand. What's really cool about the Coaches Forum for me has been, if we're talking about one particular theme or one particular item, as Pete said, how we all go about it slightly different. And I think it's a big benefit to the listeners as far as, hey, I didn't understand what Pete said, but John said it really good. I can't wait to hear what Clint has to say about it. And Clint's might be helping or not helping or whatever. And at every panel I've been on, I think that's what resonates the most, no matter who I've been on with, is that when sticking within the theme that we all have different approaches, and it's so fantastic to the listener because they're all so different. and hopefully they've taken that away more so than me taking away from everybody. It's just countless what I think we've all taken from each other, but I hope the listeners have gotten that portion of it.
Yeah, well said. And you're exactly right. I mean, it's really about the listeners. We obviously enjoy helping the folks that are tuning in each week in some way, whether it's with their golf swing or whether it's with the mental side of the game or some other area that they need a little help with. And it's good to get some different perspectives and different ways of communicating that information, because we all, as we all understand, each of us are different and learn differently, and sometimes you need to get a different perspective. Clint, what about you? You've been doing this pretty much since day one with us, and you've had all of these guys at some point on the panel with you, as well as others.
Right.
What are some of the takeaways that you remember?
Well, I tend to want to agree with John a little bit. I think that there's a lot of things that we've all talked about in common, and it's interesting that you've brought on a panel of people from pretty much all around the country. And what happens is we understand that we're talking in pretty much generic form, but saying it in different ways. So what I've come off with is that when I have a student, and you remember in the back of your mind 3 shows ago that John Decker said this, or John Hughes or Pete, they said this about this. Can my student relate to that form better than they're relating to my form? So you take away a bit of a repertoire of things to use to make a connection with your student, because we all know that that's really what matters, is that we all have basic understanding and knowledge and how to hit a golf ball, how to play the game. That's why we're instructors and teachers, and we've stayed with this game as long as most of us all have, is that we have an interest in helping people improve their ability to play our sport. So whenever I have a repertoire of different ways of phrasing or pointing out certain fundamentals and facts about the game, that just makes me a better instructor, which I appreciate what all the other guys have said. And most importantly, what I've got out of it is after the shows, I'll sit down and make some notes. It gives me an opportunity to maybe think a little bit deeper about what I'm trying to do with my local students. So that's pretty much, I think, over the years, what I've come away with is a ability to teach my students the same thing but in different ways based on things I've heard on the show.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. GTL. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Yeah, well said, Clint, in your response as well. My takeaway, I really have, many things, but 2 I'm going to mention, and it applies to all of you as well as the many other panelists that have been on over the years as well. And first and foremost is the passion in with what you do. There's a lot of people that go out and treat whatever their career is another job. That's something that's very unique about the golf business, is it's not just a job. It's a much bigger thing than that, because we're doing things to help other people. It just happens to be golf is the vessel that we're all using. So I'm very impressed with all of you, and as I said, the others that have been on the program over the years, the passion that you guys bring to each of the shows. And I know I've said this probably a million times on air, but I do appreciate it very much, because I know it's not easy. You're out on the lesson tee all day, you're tired, you come back, now you get to talk for an hour and listen to me babble on about whatever. And you guys have to come in and it's not rehearsed. You don't get a chance to see notes up front or anything like that. You have to, do what you can do on the fly. And that's not always an easy thing. So it's a testament to the passion that you guys all bring to the show and to your craft. And so I give you guys a big round of applause for that, because it's something that a lot of people in other industries don't always have. The other thing is the willingness to learn from one another, as you've all brought to the attention of the listeners. We're all different. We all have different unique styles. Sure, some of the core philosophies might be very similar or certainly the same in a lot of cases, but we each bring a different uniqueness to it and sort of put our own little spin, if you will, as you guys have all mentioned. So that impresses me. But at the same time, what impresses me even more is the fact that you're all still, even at this many years that you've all been in the business, still willing to learn from one another. And that says a lot about the integrity and the character of each and every one of you, which, again, impresses me very much, because there's a lot of businesses out there that you don't see that. Sometimes you'll see where people get a little bit too, for lack of better words, full of themselves. And you guys have always been very humble when you come on the show and respectful of one another. And even if you may not always agree with how something was presented, you're still respectful of it, and you may offer some other options or solutions to whatever the question may be at that time. So, again, I applaud all of you for that, and I thank all of you for bringing that to the show, because I think that's what really helped make it a really integral part of Golf Talk Live, is the Coach's Corner panel. So I'm going to go through the list again, and is there anything that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a tip, but it could be a tip as an example, or a drill of some kind, if you want to do it that way, that you've taken away, again, from the panel that you've now incorporated into your own instruction? Is there anything that comes to mind for that? Decker, I'll go with you first.
Wow, that's a great question. I'm trying to think ahead of something that I've used directly. Hearing, for me, kind of going back to what I was mentioning earlier, talking about what Clint was talking about, the third shot. Sometimes when I'm out there during a playing lesson, I talk to my student, and we'll talk about if there's someone that I know that they physically can't get the ball to the green in regulation, so is about playing to that where they have a go-to shot. And, I to the phrase of a go-to shot, not a yardage that you're going to play to. For me, that would be the thing that I've taken most out of that, because form, we're not doing a lot of demonstration of drills. We may talk about them, but that, for me, playing standpoint and a teaching, I think that's something that I directly say that I, from information I've gotten from the panel. And I echo what you have said as well about learning to say, learning to say in a way that's different. Sometimes it may be the way you say it, because we all, when we're teaching, we all know that out there who may not relate with what we're saying, and to be able to say it in a different way, and sometimes it can be a way that you express that to the student can make all the difference in the world during the lesson.
Well said, and a great point as well. Pete, what about you? Is there anything that you can think of, again, going back over the decade or so that we've been doing the Coach's Corner panel, that maybe you thought, you know what, I'm going to try that, and it might be just been for yourself. It may not necessarily be something you incorporate in your instruction, but you may have tried it yourself, and so I'm going to give that a try and see how it works with my game, and if it goes well, I might even try it on a few students. Anything that comes to mind?
Well, not anything, overall specific. I think it's more of a, as I said before, more of a collective. A lot of the things that Clint talks about with the short game, I think just incorporating some of the different, variances of things that he does and the outlook that he has in playing those types of shots. And I know that, John mentioned the third shot, which is, always something that's really, necessary that has to be done. But I think more than anything else, it's just been taking a perspective of really, I think more than anything, just slowing down overall with the work and the approach that I use to go with all the clients that I have. And I think that some of the guys have talked about that, when you're practicing and doing some things to, keep everything slowed down so you create more feel. I've tried to do a lot more of that. I've done that in the past before, but it was just, emphasized again with some of the guys in here talking about doing those types of things, and and being really specific in trying to, if you're going to make a change, you have to stick to that sort of a slowed down version of what you're trying to do to make it work. And I know I've incorporated that into a lot of things that I've done. And like I said, some of the guys have talked about it. So that sort of comes to mind in some of the things that I've been able to pull out. But there's been a lot of things, so it's kind of hard to really specifically pick one. But I will say too, echo what you said. It's really a great thing for all of us, to continue to learn, and especially the guys that are on tonight, just giving their time and continuing to try to get better at what we do. I mean, I've been at this, almost, goodness gracious, over 40 years now. And so it's really cool to continue to keep your eyes open and keep your ears open and listen to what the guys are saying, that, you can find something that can enhance what you're doing.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Well said. Mr. Hughes, what about you? I imagine there's maybe something that you've heard on the show or you talked about on the show, and it's resonated with you inside, and thought, okay, I'm gonna maybe put this into the practice and see how it works for me.
I agree with John. This is one of the more interesting and better questions I think that's ever been asked on this program. I'm saying it sort of chuckling because, like Pete, I'm having a hard time pulling just one or two out of the air. Every time we're on, I think we all grab a little bit of something, and it sits in our crawl, and we use it when the time comes. We're not. I think one of the things the listeners have to understand is we don't meet once a month or twice a month or whatever we're scheduled to brainstorm anybody or anything, so much as the brainstorms that happen within the program linger in our brains, and when the right person in the right situation pops up, we're pulling from that database per se. I know, having been on the show with Pete a couple of different times and then running into a student of his with one of his swing aids, was sort of eye-opening, not because I wasn't concentrating on what that swing aid was going to do for anybody, so much as it sort of dawned on me to leave some space open for that particular possibility to occur. Having John to the course one day for a photo shoot and watching some things that he had done and going, hey, I do it, but I do it differently. Why is he doing it differently? It's one thing to talk about it on the show, but then to actually see it is another. And then, there's so many things Clint and I share in common from having lived in the upstate a while ago. And I'm just mentioning the three people here because I've been on with so many different people as these guys have.
Right.
Just sort of the down to earth approach that he has. Sometimes when I'm in a pickle per se, thinking of him or thinking of some other mentors, that really just sort of calm everything down and take it for one step at a time. And again, we're talking about it amongst ourselves, about ourselves, but I'm trying to put the twist back on the listener here, that sometimes what you're hearing from us, you take from a technical standpoint of view, but I think this question in a nutshell should communicate to a listener, A, there's more than one way of getting it done. B, when you get overly excited, start thinking simple, not complicated. And B, simply because it doesn't apply to you right now and you've got a good coach that is telling you this doesn't apply to you right now, doesn't mean you toss it in the garbage. Keep it in the memory bank. Keep it in storage somewhere, because if you progress to that point where you're going to need it, having been exposed to it now is going to be something you're gonna cherish, you're gonna value when the time is right to use it. And I think all of us would agree about that. That's why it's so hard to pull just one or two things out of the thin air when asked, because the accumulation of what's been out there over the years, it's crazy. I would hate to be the person that you employ to tag every bit of your archives. I'd go nuts. But it'd be a lot of the same things, and how can I tag it differently, kind of thing, so I can pull it when I need to pull it for something. But I'm like the other two. I just can't pull one or two things out. But the collective intelligence, when you were introducing everybody, I did the math, and including you, Ted, there's over 168 years of coaching experience on this program tonight. There's no way I can pick out one thing out of all those years.
And I got to say, nobody on the panel looks a day over 167, so we're doing pretty good, I guess. No, you're right.
We all feel
point.
212.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Some days waking up, that's for sure. No, you're well said, John, and you're exactly right. And really the purpose of this, I mean, being the last show, I just wanted to have just kind of a casual discussion and just sort of, celebrate the fact we've been doing this a long time, the group of us and the many others as well who aren't with us tonight but have been on many years as well. And I just wanted to, let you guys get an opportunity to sort of think about what the takeaways were. Clint, I'm going to let you do it, and then we're going to move on to the next question. But Clint, what was something that you took away, if anything, that maybe you've applied either to yourself or students along the way?
Well, Ted, I think it, as everybody said, it's hard to say one thing, but I'll promise you that the thing that I've gotten out of being on this show for the number of years we have and having interaction with all the other people on the panel is that whenever we've all run into those students that are difficult, that are having struggling and everything we try, and it always gave me the sense and confidence that the other people particularly have great credentials on the show would agree with what I was saying. It kind of gives me that inner confidence to continue to push through with the more difficult students and helping them learn, knowing that I'm on the right track and to stay the course with them, And so to me, it's more of a personal confidence issue that when you begin to doubt whether you're really going about this the right way or not, you can kind of go back and think about some of the things that's been said on the show and the confidence that the other panelists have portrayed towards each other that gives you the staying power to work with those students that are struggling a little bit, because it's always easy to teach the good student. It's the ones that are struggling that you have to keep pressing forward with them to get them over that hump to where they're going to play more golf. And this show has given me that insight, I think, in order to stay and be patient and move forward with them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just two quick points. You've all, again, I agree with everything that everybody said. I feel the same way. A couple of quick ones. One that I really found interesting, Clint, it was yours, and you talked about several years ago, and it was about putting, and you talked about setting up a benchmark.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And, the analogy that you gave is a really good one, because you see a lot of people on the golf course, on the practice area, that are just sort of putting to, they're going around. If there's 3 or 4 little pin placements there, they're going around and just hitting them from one to another, not really putting any thought into it. And I like the analogy that you talked about. You've actually done it a couple times on the show, but setting a benchmark, learning what the speed of it is, the distance control, and understanding that before you get out on the golf course and giving you a better chance of success on the putting green. And John, one thing that always stuck out with me, and I'm talking about Hughes, is one of the things that you said very, very early on in our conversations on Coach's Corner, and that was one of your primary functions as a coach, as a teach professional, obviously besides teaching, was to ensure that your students were having fun. You wanted them to go out and have fun on the golf course, and I think that's something in life a lot of times we all, overlook and forget to do, and that always stuck with me. And I know you have that in a lot of the verbiage in your website as well, that you talk about that. So that was something that stuck with me. And Pete, always, you've always given some great points and tips and brought a lot of very good things to the panel as well, and always puts things in a perspective in a very simple form, which sometimes is needed. Sometimes we can get too technical, myself included, and you've always managed to sort of bring that into perspective and into a simple form in a lot of your answers. So I always take that away. I always have to remember for my own doing when I'm working with somebody that to try and keep it as simple as possible and not try to get too technical. And of course, my good buddy Decker, I think one of the things that I've always enjoyed is your energy, and obviously your knowledge is among the top out there, I firmly believe, but you have a great energy that you bring to and passion to your game itself and also to your instruction, and almost a certain youthfulness, and you are young, you're younger than me, but a certain youthfulness in your approach, and always bring a certain element of excitement to what you do. So that is always something that I've taken away, and I try to do that with whatever I do as well. And it's something just to remind me every once in a while. So you all have given me something over the years to think about and to try and incorporate in my own, not just instructional times, but in my own life as well. So I thank you for that. All right. Speaking of Mr. Decker, coming back with you on this one, this is very, very simple. Is there anything, guys, and you guys can chime in if you want, that we haven't discussed over the years? We've covered a lot of topics in length and so forth. Is there anything on the panel, any discussions that we haven't talked about that maybe you'd like to see in the mix next year? Is there something that we haven't covered maybe as much, or maybe we need to cover more, or just something in general that we haven't talked about? Anything that you can think of, John?
Well, that's a great question as well. But I think that it would have to be the rules. I mean, I know that there was a time when John Hughes and I were, and for the there again, we don't know when we go on this show. We don't know Ted's gonna. We don't know what is this from the last time we were going to pull something out of his hat. And when he pulled the rules tonight, there was a little lump in my throat because I'm the first to not a rules expert. I have to every year. There seems to be new rules for the U.S. to keep up with those, and I do with all of our ladies and with our men's clinics. We actually have a clinic here, Italian Club, this year went very well, and rules were incorporated with that. Something that I think that's instruction. When I look at instruction, I notice teachers teach simple things like how to make the. Whenever I have a student who they'll hit a shot, they'll make it, and then they'll put a ball 3 feet away from it, go to pull, stop them, and I say it all needs to be, and I put the ball exactly because I tell them it's not professional to teach you this because I don't want you to go to another club and tell people that you're taking with me, and then go out and make divots that are 3 feet apart from each other. The straight row, like the greenskeeper now wants you to make, so that you're taking up less turf. So etiquette, rules, I think that is missing in instruction. Something I think that would be great topics for your show. Hello?
It's been, sorry about that. What I was going to say is, no, you're exactly right. It was a great topic, and I think it would be something good to have a little bit more in depth. What I was starting to say was that I noticed that you were getting a little bit choppy with your answers. So I don't know if you're still having some issues on I don't know if you want to maybe call back in and try that and see if that clears it up. But I just want to let you know that it was fading in and out quite a few times through your conversation. Pete, what about you? Is there anything that you can think of that we haven't discussed that maybe you'd like to see us bring up next year?
I think maybe just a little bit more in depth, because I think it's a little bit of a lost art, I think, in teaching today, is cause and effect. You could put it into some different categories. I have a class I do every Tuesday evening with two gentlemen, one 65 and the other one 76, and it's just a Q&A. And we basically talk cause and effect all the time. And these two guys have learned a ton in a very short time, because we just talk about, the overall motions and basically club and ball interaction. And then, if you're going to get this, this causes this to happen, and this is the effect that you're going to get. So I think if we had some more discussions on, just overall cause and effect and what makes, the ball do what it does, I think it can help in a more, and I'll always use the term simplified, because it's fortunately and unfortunately, it's the only way I know how to think about this game. I keep it as simple as I can. But I think a basic understanding of cause and effect, I think, would be something that I think would be very valuable to the listeners, because, even in some of the areas and some of the folks that I'm around, and some of the other teachers and some of the younger teachers, I think that's kind of a lost art, and I think it can make it a little bit easier for them if they get a good understanding of just what cause and effect is. I was very fortunate, and I've told you this before, to learn from John Jacobs, one of the best cause and effect teachers I think I've ever seen. And it was really cool to be able to just decipher what's going on and make it, just to get to the fix really, really fast, because you can just understand what's going on and the dynamics of impact, and then what's coming back to the player, and what the causes affecting those issues are. So I'd like to see something like that. I know it could be a broad topic at times, but I think it would be helpful to some of our listeners to get a little bit more understanding of cause and effect in their golf games.
Yeah, I think it'd be good, and I think especially moving to a new platform which is going to incorporate the visual side of things might be really good. Maybe throwing up a few examples of some issues and what's causing the problem, and then what we can do to sort of assist in helping. So that might be something to maybe reach out to some of the listeners to the program, and even amongst yourselves to some of your students, and get either do it yourself or get them to give you just a short little snippet of maybe them hitting a ball and catching what the issue is. Maybe it's something as simple as a big old slice or whatever, and then sending it my way, and I can introduce that into the discussion. We can talk about that, what's causing it, what are they doing wrong, and how do we go about straightening this out. So it might be something. I agree with that. I think that's a good thing to talk about as well. John Hughes, what about you? Anything that comes to mind? I know there's a lot of things that we can probably throw out there, but anything specific that you can think of that you'd like to bring up next season?
Well, Pete sort of stole some of my thunder, and then you stole the rest of it, because where I was going to go with it, something I've always advocated, was a little bit more participation from listeners. And I'm really excited for all the new things coming around the corner for you, the show, for the panel, your guests, and I think it's going to open up a whole lot more for listeners and hopefully viewers to open up a whole new can of worms when it comes to what can be presented, and maybe even more simply understood. This game, I've always said, is not easy, but you're always trying to make it simpler, and I think the news of next year and going to a different platform is going to open up a ton of different stuff from a visual side, and that's how we get 90% of our information daily anyway, is through our eyes.
Right.
I'm looking forward to that.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too, to be honest. And I think the platform that I'm going to be going to, I think, is going to be really good. It gets a lot of great reviews, and it's very easy to use. And I'm going to play around with it over the next month or two, but just to get a little more proficient with it. But I think it's going to be really good. It gives a lot of perks to it as well. So, Clint, what about you? Anything that comes to mind that maybe you'd like to see in the discussions next year?
Yeah, I think so. I really would like to maybe give some thought and conversation from an instructor standpoint and all the guys on the panel. When do you tell your student that it's good enough? When do you move them from grinding and trying to do something better or different? When you can honestly look and see that fundamentally they're probably as good as they can be with the time and effort that they spend. So how do you convince that student that, hey, this part of your game is good enough, let's go over here and work on this other part? Because we've all had the student that when you want to talk to them about their chipping and putting, it look like you're from Mars, and they want to just go out there and beat balls on the range and grind it out. And so what criteria do we use to convince that person, hey, you're hitting it good enough. The reason you can't break 90 is you can't chip and putt or your strategy's wrong. Let's go out on the course and kind of run some scenarios. But when and how do you go about convincing that student that it's good enough? And at what point do you move them anyway? So I think that'd be a really great topic of maybe several shows, not just one, because I think it's an interesting thing to guide and to teach your student, but also to lead them, and how you go about leading that student through the process of scoring better when they're really stuck in the fact that they think they need to hit it better.
Yeah, and that's an excellent I think to answer a little bit is I think people enjoy celebrating their successes much more than focusing on their deficiencies in other areas. So I think it's always, if you're striping it down the middle with your driver, who isn't going to be excited about that? And if your putting's a little sketchy or your chipping or what have you is not that up to snuff, a lot of people are apprehensive because they know that it's not as good, and they want to feel good about themselves when they leave the golf course. So why not get out there and hit 20, 30, nice long drives out there? And I think that's part of it. But yeah, that would be a great thing as well. And it might even be an opportunity really to bring some students on to the panel discussion, and with different scenarios that we can do. So that's something that we'll talk about that in a moment. This next question, I'm not going to go around the panel, but just sort of a yes or yay or nay or whatever. I think it would be. We would enjoy from time to time, not every week, but maybe once a month, is to have an industry insider join us, meaning maybe somebody from a manufacturer, maybe somebody from another area of the game besides instruction, to share some of the new trends, some of the new things going on, and give the panel an opportunity to pose some questions to them about what some of the trends they're seeing and so forth. So would that be something that would be appealing, do you think, for you guys? I think it would be interesting for the listeners, but what about you guys? Just very quickly down the line, because I've got another question I need for you guys to answer before we sign off.
From Clint's standpoint, absolutely. I think it'd be a great show.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
John,
I agree totally.
Yeah.
Everybody agree, I think?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. That's something, I know we tried doing something similar, but I think this would be, again, a little bit more efficient, because now, again, with the visual components, we can bring some, cutting edge video, that sort of thing into play with some of these, industry insiders, as we call them, to come on and really talk about some of the things. And there's just a myriad of things that can happen. So these are things that I'm going to be looking into in the off season, reaching out to some people as well. We've only got a little bit over 12 minutes left. So my final question to each of them, I'm going to go down through the panel again. So just keep that in mind when you're giving your answer. If you could share, as we get ready to close off the Coach's Corner panel, for 2024, is there a game improvement tip that you'd like to leave with the listeners? John Decker, you go ahead.
I guess for me, this is the one that I always go to with, and I do this a lot with students early on in the season, is working on the pitch shot. I think to me, the average golfer, they're not going to hit a lot of greens in regulation, and they're going to have a lot of shots between 30 yards and 100 yards. That's where they're going to come up short. Statistically, the average golfer is going to come up short of the green. And so learning how to hit those shots and be proficient with them, because I just don't see enough time spent in that area as an instructor. It's one thing to hit full shots, and there's really no difference in a full swing between a pitching wedge and a 9-iron, but there's a tremendous amount of difference between hitting a 30-yard shot and a 60-yard shot as far as the club you use, the swing that you make. You're a lot of times you're using the same club, but you're having to vary the length of your swing, and it's very minute changes that you're making. It could be simply how much you widen your stance or narrow your stance, how much you lean to your left, how much you set your weight more 50-50 to control the trajectory of the shots. And I don't see that my students spending enough time on that. And if you think about it, if you know that you're not going to hit maybe but 1 or 2 or 3 greens in regulation, and you're going to have a lot of those shots, if you can learn to be really good at getting that ball on the green and 2-putt, you're going to really bring your handicap down. And so to me, that's the game improvement tip that I always think that that's the first one that comes out of my mouth when someone asks me, what's the fastest way to improve my score? So learn to hit those shots, and you're going to, because the fastest way to improve your putting is to hit it closer to the hole. If I hit it 2 feet from the hole, I don't have to be a great putter, but if I'm 30 yards off the green and I hit it 20 feet by the hole, then I better be a really, really good putter. And now I'm bringing 3 putts into play. So learning to hit the ball up there, really close to the hole, proximity to the hole is the number one thing to lower your scores.
Sounds good. Pete, what about you? What tip would you like to leave the listeners with as we get ready to wrap up Coach's Corner of the season?
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's a little bit more in depth, but it's pretty simple as you look at it. Learn how to control the club face. I mean, that's one of the paramount things I do with all of my students is to get them to understand how to control what the club face is doing. And that's not only in the long game; it's in the short game as well. And understanding how the club face and what it does can affect what the ball does. And I think it helps them to understand a lot of the issues that they have. And how to correct a lot of those issues. But, if anything, it would be getting that club face under control. And if you can get that down, it's going to save you a lot of errant shots. And it's also going to give you a lot of insight onto some different types of shots you can hit, understanding, not only square, but also lofted, de-lofted. But, really understanding the club face and how it works at impact, I think, is a big one.
Sounds good. I like that one. Mr. Hughes, how about yourself? What tip would you like to leave the listeners with?
Very simply, give yourself a goal, give yourself a challenge, and create a process that's going to get you there. No matter how distraught you may be, how frustrated you may be with that, stick with it. I just came back from the Golf Magazine Top 100 Summit, and there was a neuroscientist there, Dr. Richard Bonacore from the Philly area, and it wasn't earth-shattering or enlightening. It was more confirmational to things that we've always said on this panel, that, the technical tips, the mechanics, all these little, hey, can you give me a little magic dust, is all great. But if you don't have a goal, then your brain's not going to want to learn how to get better. It's not going to be motivated to get better. You've got to have the goal. To reach that goal, you've got to have processes in place. And all of us have talked a little bit about that this evening and in the past. And the most, this was probably going to be the most profound that I'll say this evening. The hardest thing about golf is not quitting. It was an amazing statement that this gentleman made. Don't quit on yourself. Don't quit on the process. Don't quit on reaching your goal. That's one of the uniqueness about golf and how it differs from any other sport. It's you, the ball, the environment, and what are you going to do to fix that problem and to solve it as you go through. And you've got to have these goals to do it. And no matter which side you lean to or which instructor and methodology you lean to, if you don't have a goal and you don't have a process to get it, you may as well be out doing something else.
I like that. That's a good one. I enjoyed listening to that one. Well said, John. Clint, what about you? And a tip you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Oh, absolutely. True improvement, as far as however you want to define improvement, is going to come from some honesty to evaluate what your return on your time and effort will get you towards what John is speaking of as your goals. If you want your goals are improve, define improvement. Is it a lower score or maybe hitting longer drives, whatever it may be. But you have to be honest with yourself and recognize the fact that whether you're getting a reasonably good return on your effort, or do you need to refocus that goal and move on to something where you can get a bigger return on your time and effort. And John Decker, you are now a certified third shot teacher, because just what you said was exactly true. Get your third shot on the green, you two putt, the worst you're going to shoot is 86. So, I mean, you have now been certified. So, to be honest with yourself, yeah, well, that's true, certifiable. Yeah. But no, that's cool. Well, I've certainly, you can probably tell, I really do enjoy these shows, and it's great being. But I think from the student standpoint, be honest with your goals, and to be honest with your return where you're getting it. That comes back to the thing we talked about a minute ago: is that when is good enough to where you can move on to get a better return on something you really need to work on. So look at that return on time and effort, and focus your attention on getting the ball on the green from 100 yards in.
I couldn't agree more. And the only tip that I'm going to leave with the listeners as we wrap up Coach's Corner segment here on Golf Talk Live is to go back and listen to all of the archives, as many as you can get in the off season, and listen to the many panel discussions that we've had over the years. There's a lot of good information in there, not just from the four guys on the panel tonight, but from many of the other panelists that are not joining us this evening. Just go and listen to that. Obviously, there's some great guests that will follow afterwards, but there's a lot of great nuggets, as I say, that you'll take away and at least give you pause to think. But the main thing is you want to be active. Even if you're in the cold northwest or northeast and you're not able to get out and actually physically work on the game out in the golf course because of conditions, or maybe you don't have an indoor facility near you, there's no excuse. There's so many great tips that you can do in your own home, things that you can work on, the fundamentals and so forth that you can be working on. And if you're able to get away for a week or so throughout the winter months, maybe to Florida or out west somewhere in the warmer climates, and able to play some golf, take advantage of that. Go and do that whenever possible. But if not, at least be working on stuff. Don't just plunk yourself down on the couch or in a lazy boy chair and spend the next 3 to 4 months doing nothing and then coming back out. So go and listen to the Golf Talk Live Coach's Corner segments particularly, but all of the shows in the archives. You can find them now at Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. And just type in the search key Golf Talk Live, and you'll find all of the episodes, including tonight's, will be there in its entirety. All right, in the last minute or two, guys, as always, let me just say, first off and foremost, thank you for another great season. We had a little bit of some technical glitches this year. Maybe that's a sign it was time to move on. I don't know, but we're going to do that anyways. But I want to thank you guys, and I mean that sincerely, for all of the hard work and efforts that you bring into the show. I appreciate it, all of the great advice and tips that you bring. I know we learn from one another, and I just really appreciate you giving of your time. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward. I'm excited, as you've all indicated, as to next year with the new platform to see what we can do with that and make it even better. But I want to thank you for joining me on this final episode of 2024 on Coach's Corner. Going in order again, John Decker, if you want to just let the folks know where they can reach out if they want to get in touch with you before we come back on air again.
Well, thanks again, Ted, for having me on the show. I apologize for the technical issues on my end. And Pete, John, and Clint, I enjoyed, as always, being on with you tonight. To all the listeners out there, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I hope you have a great 2025 golf season. If you want to get in touch with me, go to my website, deckergolf.com. I'm also available on social media on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. My book, Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time, is just released in July, and Clark Kellogg helped me release it in September at my club in Ohio. But it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.com. If you're interested in gift certificates or speaking engagements, that information is available on the website as well. And I'm down here in Naples now, teaching from December to March. I'm at the Hibiscus Club in Naples, Florida. So if you're in the Naples area, I'm available, and then I'll be back in Columbus April through November. But Ted, thanks for all that you do in giving us the opportunity to be on the show, and to all you and your family. I hope you have a Merry Christmas as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you, John. Pete, what about you? Any final thoughts on how they can reach you?
Yeah, they can reach me at PeteBuchananGolf.com. All of my contact information is out there. Again, Ted, thanks to you. I mean, you do a wonderful job with this, and we're fortunate to be able to be on with you. And guys, enjoyed the discussion tonight, and then keep your eyes out. I'm involved in a new app that's going to launch on December 17th. It's an all-sports app that I've been able to be one of the coaches on the golf side. So you'll see it come out. It's a new one. I can't really give the name out yet until it launches, but that's something that you'll be able to see some snippets on my website about that too. So looking forward to how that turns out this year and next year.
Perfect. Thank you, Pete. John?
John, Pete, Clint, always a pleasure. You guys are fantastic, and hopefully get to see you guys down here in January during the PGA show. Ted, as always, thanks for the opportunity. The many years of opportunities were well taken advantage of us by all of us, and hopefully the listeners took advantage of it too. A happy holiday to all the listeners there. Start making your goals now. Start making your dreams come true for next year now by planning them all out. And if you need my help with that, you can reach me through my website, John Hughes.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck. I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything. Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business. Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot. Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me. Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com. Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Golf.com, all my contact info's there. Social media, put the ampersand, the hashtag, whatever it is, and you find me the same way there. A wonderful holiday season to everybody. A great 2025 to you as well.
All right. Thank you, John. And Clint, last but not least. Clint, you still with us?
There we go.
Nope.
Guys, it's been a pleasure.
My
senior moment. It's been a pleasure for the last 12 years or 11 years I've been on with all you guys and all the other people on the panels. I really do enjoy it. And as everyone else has, I wish everybody to have a wonderful holiday season, whether it's a Christmas, Hanukkah, or whatever you do tend to celebrate this time of year. So please have a great time. And really looking forward to Lucky 13, Ted. I think 2025 is going to be a wonderful year for our business and our sport, and hopefully we'll continue to have some great discussions here. And if people want to reach out to me, they can get me at clintgoff001@yahoo.com. Be more than happy to respond back to them. And again, guys, y'all have a nice holiday and a safe New Year.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you as always, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that good stuff to you guys. And I will probably see some or most of you down at the PGA show at the end of January. But if not, have a great holiday season, and I look forward to you guys joining me next season on the panel discussion here on Golf Talk Live's Coach's Corner. Have a great season, you guys. We'll talk to you later.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
All right, that was John Decker, Pete Buchanan, John Hughes, and Clint Wright joining me on the Coach's Corner panel here on Golf Talk Live. We're going to take a very fast break, and then I'm going to bring on tonight's special guest. So stick around. We'll be right back. Do you want to maximize every drive this season? A brand I've worked with for many years helps you do exactly that. Brush Tee is a premium golf tee made from the highest quality plastics for season-lasting performance. Their innovative design provides consistent height, and their fast flex bristles cradle the ball, creating a nearly frictionless impact zone. Visit brushtee.com and use promo code GolfTips to receive a 10% discount. That's brushtee.com, promo code GolfTips to get 10% off your next order.
When it comes to golf, there are two topics that consistently come up: more distance and more energy. But hey, what if you could achieve both? Introducing Victory's carbon fiber insoles, the revolutionary performance insoles designed specifically to help golfers hit longer. Using patented carbon fiber technology, VKs do more than support your feet. Many golfers see a 1 to 2 mile per hour increase in club head speed just by adding Victory insoles to their shoes. So if you want to up your game and feel better after a long day on the course, choose Victory's carbon fiber insoles. Visit Victory.com, that's VKTRY.com, and use code GT20 for 20% off today. This offer is exclusive for listeners of this podcast. Again, visit Victory.com and use code GT20 for 20% off. Order today to start feeling the difference on your next round.
All right, welcome back to Golf Talk Live. I'm Ted Odorico, your host. And we're excited to have this evening's guest on. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then I'm going to bring him on the show, and we'll begin our conversation. His name is Alex Prasad. He is the CEO of V1 Sports, and he is an entrepreneur and seasoned business attorney with a unique blend of legal acumen and hands-on operational experience. With over a decade of expertise in early-stage company and M&A law, Alex has transitioned from leading a sports television production crew to practicing corporate law to now serving as the CEO of V1 Sports. He's a graduate of University of Michigan, Go Blue, and also Notre Dame Law School. So please welcome the CEO of V1 Sports, Alex Prasad. Good evening, Alex. Welcome.
Hey, Ted. Good evening.
How are
thanks
you
for
doing?
having me. I'm really excited to be. I'm great. I'm just enjoying the winter here in northern Michigan. We've got lots of snow.
Yeah, you're not kidding, Go Blue. Yeah, blue cheeks and everything. Yeah, beautiful area up in Michigan. And so let me ask you something. I just before we get into our discussion. So obviously you're a Michigan fan, but you attended Notre Dame Law School. So do you vote a little bit for Notre Dame too when their games are playing, or how do you balance that out? I mean, I know you said Go Blue, so I knew your Michigan is probably first and foremost, right?
Yeah, I grew up. My dad went to Michigan. I went to Michigan undergrad. I grew up in Metro Detroit, so those are the true blue colors, if you will. And so I tremendously enjoyed my time at Notre Dame. The Notre Dame law experience was great. Amy Coney Barrett, a Supreme Court justice now, was a professor of mine. So it was a great experience. But when it comes to athletics, Notre Dame can go to heck and go blue. So I'm a Michigan fan through and through. And, I can.
Yeah, I kind of
I wasn't the most popular kid.
Yeah, I kind of sensed that when you didn't have anything following Notre Dame. So, yeah, it was good to get the law degree there, but not so much when it comes to the football team. But, hey, that's the way things shake out. So,
Ted,
so let me ask you.
Biographical fact, Ted, before we transition, you're from Hamilton, Ontario. Is that right?
Yep.
Did I do my research correctly? My
did.
bachelor party began in Hamilton, Ontario, of all places. Many years ago now.
Oh, wow.
We went to a Ticats game on the way to Toronto.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Probably figured out that part, but So I've been to your hometown.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, the Ticats. That's a whole different league altogether. But it was always a lot of fun. The difference was, of course, we were out in the stands, freezing our what's off. During it was 1 year I was actually there when they had the Grey Cup, which is our equivalent. But it was pretty cold in those games, but it was always a lot of fun. But a little hot chocolate and when I was a kid, that's what I had. But when I got older, obviously, it gravitated to something a little more serious. But yeah, it was always fun to be in the stand. So what's interesting, and I'm familiar with V1 Sports, so I'm familiar with a lot of the product and that. But let's talk about, before we get into what's sort of new in coming up in 2025, because I know you've got some a launch of the new V1 Coach app. Let's talk about, if you wouldn't mind, for the listeners that aren't familiar with V1 Sports, maybe give them just a little bit of background on what it is and really what the purpose of V1 Sports is for.
Yeah, thanks again for the opportunity to, kind of tell the story, Ted. So V1 is 20-plus years old, and it won roughly 30% market share in North America amongst golf instructors, 20 years ago or so, by sending video over the internet. It sounds quaint today, but 20 years ago that was pretty stinking cool. And by telestrating on that video, again, a really cool, I'm going to call it a trick, but, a really cool feature, right, 20 years ago. Right. And, to summarize, 20 years in 2 sentences, which is completely unfair, not a ton changed over time. And so a few years ago, we were fortunate to have not a lot changed. And, the pros are happy that the tool did its job, right? But starting a few years ago, we set forth to kind of reimagine, what V1 was. And we started by listening. So I did not come up, though I had that, sports TV background, I didn't come up in the golf industry, if you will. It's not like the roots of my career. And so I think in some ways that's a superpower. Others have told me it's a disadvantage at times. And I think both can be true. But, I think it's made me a good listener because I did not come to any conversation with a preconceived notion of, what the answers were. And so I would say, especially a year ago, I saw you mentioned the PGA show, coming up now in a month. Crazy how time flies. We knew we were rewriting what is called V1 Pro Mobile, is the old mobile app for coaches, and now we have V1 Coach out. And when we were rewriting Pro Mobile and creating this new product, V1 Coach, this new solution, V1 Coach, we're really purposeful about listening to our pros and trying to understand what their biggest pain points were. And so that's kind of the what's new, and that's the summary of V1. And what we have evolved into through, I think, purposeful listening is a business growth tool or solution for golf pros. And I can elaborate more. But so we've evolved from, I think, being the video tool, and there's lots of, over time, right, there's been lots of entrants into that market, if you will, with a similar tool. There are a lot of competitors now. By the way, I think a lot of our competitors do a pretty good job, maybe even a better job. We go so far to say just on that video piece. That video piece kind of is what it is at this point. And so we recognize that and knew that pros had different pain points, and we can talk about that and set out to try to prove, not just do the video stuff, which we've always done, and do it well. Super important, foundational, bedrock, right? But the what's new is tilting towards, having listened to the pros, trying to solve some of their business problems. And, we can elaborate on that. I'll be long-winded, Ted. I can just go and go if you put a coin in me, So
no, that's fine.
I'll stop myself.
I listen. That's the whole.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. GTL Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
That's the whole point of the show, is for my guests to take this opportunity to really talk about what they're passionate about. And you're exactly right. And what's interesting is, there has been so much change in the last 10 years for sure in golf, but more importantly, even in the last 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, even despite COVID. I mean, you've got a whole different, COVID really, for all of the struggles that many people went through, and obviously tragedies, unfortunately, that some experienced. The one thing that did, I guess, if you want to say anything positive that came out of it, at least from our perspective, is it brought a whole crop of new people to the game that had never played before, knew really very little about golf. But one thing that they did bring was a different way of looking at the game. So that, they weren't the typical country club folks or even the resort folks. They were coming, they wanted in its simplest form, they wanted to get as much information given to them as quickly as possible and see results much quicker than what typically in our business. So I can certainly understand where you guys would have to sort of reimagine the wheel, let's say, put it that way, in the last couple of years, because there is a lot of competition coming out, and obviously the industry, the younger generation particularly, is driving it. So businesses have to be able to adapt in order to stay relevant. So let's talk about, as you mentioned, you're obviously known for the video and video analysis and that. What are some of the new things that you're bringing to V1 Coach?
Yeah, and Ted, the first thing to respond to this COVID, dynamic, if you will, right, and new entrants. One of the first problems, as we set out to really purposefully listen, right, is ghosting, basically, right? The student that comes to an instructor once, the instructor invests a lot of time and effort, right, to getting to know the person, et cetera, and it goes poof.
Right.
Never, to be seen again, right? And that was, I think that's particularly prevalent, in the last few years, right, because of these new entrants, right? And so, there's we heard three themes, if you will, Ted. One is, I call it the time problem, which at first stymied me a little bit, or confused me a little bit, right? Pros would tell us, I'm too busy, I can't even think about growing my business. And I go, great, are you busy, in early December, right? And they say no. I say, okay, so there's, it's overweighted, right, at high tide, if you will, right, and underweighted at low tide. That was kind of one interesting thing. But this perception, I don't have the time to grow my business, right? Like I can barely breathe, and I need that time to kind of recharge, right? I'd like to be busier than I am in the winter, and maybe not so dependent on that in-person component, needing to stand on the range for 15 hours a day or like every hour of daylight, right, in the summer, depending on, your latitude, right? The second theme was I have all the success in person, and none of it or little of it has translated to online. And I kind of can see a vision for if I form an in-person relationship, maybe I could continue that digitally, and maybe I could sit on my couch and analyze a swing, after I have young kids, right? After dinner time and after, bedtime with my kids, right? Depending on your life phase, right? But it's not dependent on me being at a place and time. And the third was to kind of just, I guess, permeating the first two, is kind of being overwhelmed, right? I don't know where to start. And so, again, I use this phrase, purposeful listening, coming to the conversation without preconceived notions. And we really tried to focus on addressing those problems to grow the business. And so the business of golf professionals. And it actually works both ways, Ted. It could also keep you closer. Perhaps you're a pro at, a private club, right? You have 200, 300 members. The same tools, kind of coincidental, the same tools that don't take more time for the pro, automated tools, we'll get into what they are, what the solutions we think we are to these problems, will help pros stay closer to their members. Even the pro at the country club with 200, private club, 200, 300 members, still feels like they don't do a good enough job following up, right? Reminding folks to come back, checking in on them. And those are easy things to fall off anyone's plate in anyone's profession when there's another lesson, right? There's another thing that's going to generate revenue right now. you know that you're not doing the things to keep the kind of machine rolling, right? When kind of that top of mind stuff doesn't happen, the student might come to you once and disappear, and you've never asked for the sale again, basically, right? Because you don't have the time. It's been really purposeful about solving that time element. And I can get into some of the features, but those are the three themes that we find are resonating with golf pros. Some more than others for each pro.
Yeah, and Alex, that's a great point. I want to focus on time just for a second, if you don't mind, because I agree. One of the problems I think in our industry has had for a long time is in order to be successful as a teacher professional, you've got to be on the lesson tee. I say 24/7, but it's like you said, 12 to 15 hours in peak times.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
But one of the things really is, given today's environment, is how effective are you really, and how, your time management. If you're out there on the lesson tee, and let's say you're giving 10 lessons a day, for argument's sake, just to put a number out there, that's a lot. And you're coming back, and then you've got to do a mountain of paperwork. You've got to do the follow-ups in that, and whatever else you're going to do. So really, as a golf coach, you're almost partially a salesperson as well, because you're looking for that repeat business. And if you're constantly going for the one and done, and I don't mean that you don't want people signing up for multiple lessons, but if you're going to the next lesson, and you don't have time to do that proper follow-up. So really what I see V1 Coach doing now is also helping with better time management and being more efficient with the time that you're utilizing, and giving and maybe freeing up some time for the coaches to be able to do some of those other things, because now they've got a tool that's going to help them streamline in some cases and be more effective in what they're doing without having to go up there and, beat the pavement, as it were. Am I on the right track with V1 Coach when I say that?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of brought forth a couple thoughts. One is, this theme of time. So we knew that whatever solutions we were going to provide, I call it can't be an eat your vegetables solution, right? You go listen to a health person and say, eat healthier, right? And like, oh, yeah, I know, but, I like Oreos, right? It can't be beaten over the head. That's great, but it doesn't really solve my problem. How can I, right, in my lifestyle make improvements, right? Another, kind of related is, the more, I'm not anti-technology, clearly, who work at a software company, right? But some of the tools that are coming out, don't address this problem. It's just more. And I don't know. Right. And when I say I don't know, I really truly mean it. I don't say it skeptically. I say I don't know from the perception of a golfer if you have, I'm hesitant, I'm not trying to bash anyone, right? But more data, right. For the student. We list all, launch data, ground pressure data, right? Kinematic sequence data, et cetera. Does that bring the student back? I don't know. I think it's an open question. But what we do know is that if you follow up with people, for instance, they will come back. What we do know, and I say this because we look at our data, what we do know is that if you send a lesson recap in person and you give them a take-home, using our software or other competitors, by the way, too, Ted, right? You can unleash an automated cadence, which serves as a top of mind or a reminder to the student, right, that you exist. People are busy, right? They're probably fitting their golf instruction around their life, not the other way around. No offense, right? Right. This is a leisure thing, a recreational thing. So they will forget. So two things that we do one that's I think standard practice, and one that's kind of neat and new. So the one is we really encourage our pros to take the last 5 minutes of every lesson. So it's not more time, right, Ted? This is the key. Not more time, right? Better result, not more time. To recap with video. With a student, and send it to them in that hour, in that 45 minutes, whatever you're like. Take the last 5 minutes. The student's not going to feel shortchanged because you're summarizing the whole lesson, right? I'll send you a couple swings. I'll send you these things. For us, in our system, what that does is trigger a whole bunch of reminders. If they're not going and interacting with that, we'll automatically remind the student, hey, you got a lesson or a lesson recap. You didn't watch. Go check it out. That's a freebie that pings the student on your behalf. our platform has all the things that you would expect, right? Invite system, and you're connected to the student. You can chat the student. That was new to us, but I think that's table stakes stuff. But one of the things I'm really proud of is we use AI, and to my knowledge, and you, Ted, probably have a better view than I do of what everyone else is doing because I'm so focused on what we're doing. But to my knowledge, we're the only folks using AI to help golf instructors communicate with their students. And so what we will do with the instructor's impact, we spend time, or input, we spend time building the right kind of model for the instructor, but we will take that lesson follow-up and we'll create a chat sequence and an email sequence for the instructor to follow up in a personalized way to that student. For instance, we're not replacing the instructor, but we are augmenting the instructor. So for instance, Ted, you come to me and you mention that you have this big tournament coming up and so you need to work on your short game, making a silly example, right? You're going to say that in your lesson recap, right? Doesn't take you any more time.
Yep. You're
going to send me, or I'm getting confused. Am I the instructor or the student, right? I'm going to send you the lesson recap, Ted. You're going to get reminders if you don't consume that content. And then also on whatever cadence you, that I want as the instructor, I'll follow up. And I'll say, hey, Ted, thanks for coming to see me. And this is the first message. Maybe 5 days later, we can talk about the sequence, right? Ted, it was great they came to see me. I really hope you do well in this tournament coming up in a couple of days. Just a reminder, I sent you, drill XYZ, right, that I think will really help you. And day 7 and day 14 or whatever, sequencing you want, with, I think most importantly, that last sequence being a call to action, right? I'd love to see you come back. Here's a link to book another lesson. Or I'd love for you to send me another swing because we're going to do some online stuff and we can talk about asynchronous work. If the student starts chatting back, like we're not going to, use AI to spoof, Alex's personality with Ted, but we are going to turn that flywheel, if you will, for the instructor in a personalized one-to-one way. Everyone's, AI, what is it really? But this is a real practical, simple, impactful application of the technology. And I've got some great testimonials, right, and folks that are doing it and love it because, again, now as the instructor in our little scenario, Ted, I know that I'm going to be sending you, these warm and fuzzies, if you will, right, over a period of time to try to re-engage you. Absent that, I probably won't. And so kind of our macro conclusion and all this, on all the, how can we grow your business for you or help you grow your business is the competition, if you will, is inaction. Because these things aren't getting done, right? And it's because of that time element that we discussed.
Yeah, and let me just add too, and that's a great explanation. That's really what I was looking for. One of the problems I think from an instructor standpoint, which I am one, is one of the biggest pet peeves that we have is, let's say we said every 2 weeks, our student wants to take lessons every couple of weeks, and before things like V1 and all that was out there. You relied on the student, we would give them something similar, a recap or whatever you want to call it at the end of the session and say, okay, here's some things, some drills, what have you that, I want you to work on until we meet again. And so what often happens is because they didn't get a reminder and because I'm busy on the lesson tee, I don't always get a chance to follow up with every single person except for maybe the night before and say, hey, don't forget you're coming at 2 o'clock, tomorrow, whatever.
Right.
Right. It gets by the wayside. So when the student comes back, 2 weeks Wednesday, they're coming back and, the first thing we're saying, well, how did those, drills or what have you work out? Well, I had a wedding to go to and the excuses come out. So having this technology giving me instant feedback so that I know that, hey, they're utilizing the tools that I've provided for them. They're looking at the recap. They're viewing the videos that have gone back and forth. Gives me an idea of whether they're doing their homework, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And that's important to me as an instructor because I want to know, because if everybody gets busy, once in a while and things come up and that can't be helped. But if, as an instructor, if you start to see a pattern where people are coming to you and wanting to improve, but they're not putting any work in between, there comes a point in time where the conversation gets, okay, love getting the payments, but are you really serious about improving your game? Because I don't see you doing it. So I can see this being a very valuable tool for the coaches to be able to have that interaction and to be able to get real-time feedback with the follow-up portion of it as well, because it gives them an idea of who's really doing the deep dive into the game improvement side of it, or who's just sort of going through the motions. And if let's say I've got 100 students a season, and 25% of them are not doing anything, I don't certainly want to lose the money, but at the same time, maybe I can find another 10 or 15% who are going to be like the other 75% and going to be more interactive and more, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't want to lose clients, but at the same time, sometimes you have to shed the dead wood. So I can see that being one of the benefits of your app for both student and for the coach is it engages the student, but it also gives real-time feedback to the coach to see whether or not what he or she is doing is being received and is being, utilized to its full potential or even partial potential, and that's valuable as a coach for me. So I just wanted to point that out so people really understand, and not just so much the technical side of it, but no, I think that's a great thing. So, what is the essential list then for coaches? What is it for them to see growth in their business? What is it they need to be doing on their side?
Yeah, we kind of I have a metaphor, which it always comes back to cars for me, being from Metro Detroit, right? So there's the chassis, which is the body of the car, there's the engine, and there's the fuel that goes in it. That's how we kind of view this. And so that those lesson recaps and using video, doing that top of mind stuff, I think with the AI stuff is really neat and cool because you can see the results. That's part of the chassis. But we learned something really interesting. I was having a conversation with a pro recently in a rural area, and basically his thesis was, I tried to do online and it didn't work. I said, okay, great. What did you do? And basically he said, hey, you could send me videos and I could, look at them and send them back to you. And he said it a few times and no one really took him up on it, right? So we call it like the minimally viable, that'd be like your business term, right? But like, do you have e-commerce infrastructure as an instructor, yes or no? So this points back to the asynchronous or the time component, Ted. But so if you're not sending videos back and forth to your students, giving them a take home, not strike one, but like that's a missed opportunity, right? If you don't have automated follow-ups, then maybe they're not personalized, right? And not using AI, whatever, that's fine. Another missed opportunity because it's going to be much easier to grow your business, even shed the dead wood. But the other side of that is someone who's already paid you is much more likely to pay you than a random person. And then third is having this, minimal or minimally viable infrastructure, and that's, can a student buy a digital good from you? Yes or no? If they cannot, it's going to be really hard to scale your business, right? Outside of time and place, in person, I'm standing on the range. That's kind of one lane. That's the body. The second is the engine, and that is actually doing, marketing things. We have this great partner, Metolius Golf. Ross Liggett is their founder, CEO. We're actually doing a webinar on Monday next week talking about this model, and there's a slide of the car and the engine and the gas tank. Again, from a time perspective, Metolius has been very successful working with golf courses and driving foot traffic, and they're kind of coming along with us for this ride to help grow pros' businesses. But that's the typical marketing stuff, Ted, right? That's email, social, digital advertising. That's what everyone does. So that's the engine. So in our opinion, if you don't have a body, you're not going to get anywhere, right? You need to have the body of the car. You need to put the engine in it. Now it's ready to go somewhere. And then you need to fuel it. And that's a really interesting, unique opportunity that we have. And again, I try to be very persnickety, if you will, about what I know or what I think I know. And I think, because I have not had anyone prove it to me otherwise, there is no one who has more avid golfers looking for coaches in their ecosystem than we do. So every day we get 300 golfers that come into our platform and register for our app. And there's some seasonality there, but just on average, right? And we're getting hundreds a week now that we survey them telling us they want to be introduced to a coach. When someone calls us, we have a conversation, and they say, hey, I want to grow, or I heard that you got all these golfers, give them to me. We say, great. We love people that like to grow. We want to help grow your business. We have these tools that we think can do it. But let's understand where you are on this journey because I want you to be successful. And if you don't have like kind of those minimal viable steps, right? You're not using video, or maybe it's something else, right? But you're not sending your student home with a takeaway from in-person. You don't have a follow-up regime. You don't have this digital e-commerce, if you will, functionality. Again, these are not rocket science. That's billing and scheduling, right? And a landing page or a website, somewhere where the person can go to purchase from you, right? This is not rocket science. If you don't have that, I'm not just going to pour golfers at you because you don't have this minimum infrastructure to be successful. You'll get frustrated. You're not going to like doing that. And then if you're not doing these marketing activities, even just internally to your existing customers, like email on a regular basis and doing it well, that's an opinion statement. Again, I can't pour a bunch of gas onto a car with no engine. This doesn't make any sense, right? Onto a body of a car with no engine. So we found maybe that's a good sales tactic, but it's genuine, right? Because we've had all these conversations. We had this conversation like the guy I was telling you about. I'm leaving anonymous, right? That I tried. Actually, it's a sequencing issue, right? Like you've done some of in each of the three categories, if you will. The chassis, the body of the car, the engine, and the gas. But you didn't do them in the right order. You poured gas on nothing, and then you decided to do some of the body, but not the full body, and then you didn't put an engine in, so you're not going to go, right? So we have found that in that order, those things lead to success. And so we're really excited, and people gravitate when we talk to them and go, oh my gosh, like hundreds of golfers, what are they telling you? Like, well, they fill out this survey and they answer what they want to work on. Tomorrow we have 8 or 9 calls booked between instructors and golfers that came into the golf app. That's a high tide number, Ted. I'll be honest with you, but still, that's a record day, but that's still there's real traction there.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21+. Terms and conditions apply.
And it's really exciting. A little side note, and I don't want to dig at anyone in particular, people read between the lines, but another thing that we learned, and again, I'm just going to repeat myself, everyone's rolling their eyes, right? But from this purposeful listening, is that marketplaces check some of those e-commerce boxes for instructors, but it's an incomplete solution for 90% of the instructors for 2 reasons. One, from the instructor's perspective, this is a new competition that they have to win, right? How do I look good online in that format? I think instructors are really good at building trust one-on-one with golfers, and I think instructors have to learn a new skill set. Maybe they're great at it, and some are, right? But how do I make this page look good? And how do I make myself look appealing? And these offers, and which one's going to work, and which one's going to sell, which one's not? It's a new game to play, right? And the second is golfers have a hard time evaluating instructors online because there's so much social and emotional and personal about that relationship, right? So what ends up happening is the winners in a marketplace setting, when it's like the phone book of instructors, clump together. Like there are fewer and fewer, and they get wildly successful because they kind of crack the code. Spoken to a lot of them, and I think it's great. They have found a way. But for everybody else, it's kind of just a numbers game, right? So if I'm on Airbnb, right, looking for a vacation, destination, and there's 2 houses on the same block, they both look nice, in general, right? No one looks like they smell, from the instructor perspective. But one has 1,000 reviews and one has 2. You're going to choose the 1,000 person every time, and it's the only criteria by which to really decide. So when we talk about our gasoline, if you will, in my silly metaphor, but these golf users, we're matching them 1-to-1 with instructors, not, kind of throwing everyone into a big mix and hoping that, the cream rises to the top, if you will. So that's a lot of things I just said, but it's really crystallized in the last couple of months, and we're seeing the results, and it's pretty exciting because it's been taking us years to listen to that and, I think I pointed out some of the stumbling blocks or hurdles or, that doesn't make sense. We need to learn more there, right, to get to this conclusion.
Well, exactly. And it's important. You raise a really interesting point because the truth of the matter is there's a lot of great golf instructors out there, very proficient at what they do. But I've noticed over the years, and I've interviewed a lot of them, and I've had the chance to meet many of them as well in person, is they're great at what their craft is, but they're terrible marketers.
Yep.
And they're terrible at, and that's really what you're getting at, is they're not getting out there, especially for some of the older ones, I'm being fair. I mean, a lot of the younger ones coming in, as you say, have cracked the code. They understand that you've got to get yourself out there. And it's more than just, it's kind of like, back a few years ago, we started seeing a trend for a little while. It seems to have leveled off a bit, but you started seeing a lot of golf course closures. And, people thought, okay, well, that was pre-COVID. You started seeing a lot of places that have been around for years closing. And I'm not saying this is, apropos for all of them, but what I noticed with a lot of them, and I'm going to use myself as an example. When I first started the show, I've been doing this show now, I'm going into my 13th season next year. And so I've been doing this for a little while. When I first started this program, I was one of the early people to do podcasts for golf. I mean, there were other podcasts, but there wasn't really a lot of them. So I won't say I was a pioneer, but I was an early to the game. And so, I got to see a lot of things. And what I noticed was there were a lot of professionals and there were a lot of facilities that were running old school. And what I mean by that is, they were used to people coming to them. So they would open up the gate in the morning, open up the pro shop, and people would come to them. Well, when more competition started coming around in the area, more courses were built, stuff like that. Now they've got to find a new way. And they weren't reaching out to their communities. Well, when you start to see some of these younger professionals coming out that are very tech savvy, very used to being on social media and things like that, they know that you've got to go to the people. You can't wait for them to come to you. And I think what's happened is, and I think it's starting to change, I think you're starting to see some of the, and it's not just an age thing, but it's just part of a personality, is you're starting to recognize some of the established golf professionals that have been out there for years, recognizing that, hey, I've got to start getting out and active in my community and reaching out and finding ways of connecting. And as you said, listening to what it is people, it's not just a matter of, well, hey, sign up for 5 lessons and I'll see if I can help your game. You've got to really listen to what it is they want, because that's changed. It's not like it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. The golfers today coming out now, and it's not just about speed and they don't have the same time. They can't afford to spend maybe an hour on the range. So they're looking for ways to interact with that professional in a way that meets their needs, not just so much the coach's needs. So that's what they have to do, and you have to kind of find a way to marry the two. And the only way you can do that is you've got to get out there and communicate. And that's one of the benefits that I've had doing this program over the years, is I've gotten to listen to a lot of people in the business, hear some of the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it's given me a little bit of insight as well. And that doesn't mean I'm perfect, but giving me a little bit of insight to what you're talking about. And you're exactly right. You've got to listen first and foremost. That's why we have 2 ears, one mouth. Unfortunately, some people talk twice as much as they listen. And you have to be able to, I'm right. So how does,
no, I'm laughing because I think I'm an offender. Normally.
Right. No. I mean, that's okay. In this format, it's okay because you're an invited guest, and that's what I want you to do, is to talk, passionately about what you're doing. So let's talk from the students. What is it about the V1 Golf app that they really like? I know there's a lot of reviews, and we'll send people to the website after if they want to read some of the reviews and things. But what has been some of the feedback, and why do they really love the V1 Golf app? What is it about the app they really enjoy?
Yeah, I'd have to say, to summarize what you just said, Ted, golf instructors became golf instructors to instruct golf. That's what they did it for, right? Because they like instructing golf, not because they wanted to build this whole business around. And actually, there's a great parallel to attorneys. Same thing. Don't know how to develop the business because no one taught them. They can be a good attorney, and they go, wait, why aren't all the clients lining up at the door? I do good legal work, right? It's because it's a different game. So the students, there's this great symbiotic, if you will, relationship between our two sides of the business. So the V1 Golf app is a simplified, if you will, right, because it doesn't have a customer list and invitations and so on and so forth, right, version of what we offer pros. So a student comes to an instructor, gets this lesson recap, this video analysis and then can do it on their own, on the range. They can take the video from their lesson, the lesson recap, and say, this was my swing fault. Here's the goods and the bads, right, from my previous session. How does that compare to what I'm doing right now and the results that I'm getting on the range? It's funny because there was a time where I think internally we believed that there was a tension between giving the student, this tool. In some ways it was maybe competitive with the instructor. But to your point earlier about basically giving the same lesson, 5 times in a row to the same individual because they didn't do their homework, again, right. Intentionally, listening, that's not the feedback we've gotten from instructors, right? As an instructor, you want your students and athletes, right, to improve and grow and listen to what you said and hopefully try to replicate, the good, right, or the corrections, or at least identify, when, they have, a fault that you have pointed out that they need to work on, right? So in a lot of ways, that convincing a golf – look, the most avid golfers understand that a foundational, fundamental, if you don't want to watch yourself swing the golf club, it's going to be really hard to get better. It's a foundational, fundamental thing, right? You can look at your smash factor and all these other things, but if you can't, look at the what you see and what you feel and try to, connect those two things, it's going to be hard to improve. Maybe you will, by luck or whatever, but it's going to be hard to replicate it, et cetera, right? So that's number one. And then number two, by going to an instructor who believes the same and uses video as a tool, you're more or less convinced, right, of that. Maybe you didn't understand that before, or you didn't believe it before, if you will, but if you're going to an instructor, actually, whether or not the instructor is using video, they're using their eyes to watch you. I mean, that's why you're going to see the person. And so video is a very short, step, not even a leap, right, from that. And then for you to do it yourself and, quote, unquote, do your homework is another very short step. We made it much easier. There's also we call it custom store feature where the golf instructor can put some of these e-commerce offers, et cetera, in front of their student. So we're really trying to make this the one place where instructors and golfers can interact. We have read receipts like in WhatsApp or many other messaging apps, in our app as well now. So the other thing we've heard from golf instructors is like, hey, man, people are WhatsApping me, they're texting me, they're calling me, my phone. Now we can direct all those communications into one place. It still could be chaotic. You still get a lot of communications, but at least you have a folder, if you will, a place where that's the work stuff, but they're not texting your personal number. I mean, you give it out, great, right? But they have a way to get to you now in the app, as opposed to through 18 other communication methods, and you can really create this we call it stored value, right? But build up this library of your own swings, of your instructor's content that they push to you to get better. So it pairs very nicely, if you will, right, with the already existing in-person relationship, which is where a lot of people are starting. Again, we're trying to build this completely asynchronous, completely digital channel as well. But we also recognize the reality. The vast majority of these relationships, have at least some in-person component or did, at their inception.
And what's interesting too is, again, as I talked about a little bit earlier in our discussion, the generations coming up now are communicating much differently than, when I was growing up. You went to the golf course, you spoke with the instructor, and you talked about a game plan, if you will, and working through some of the areas that need help in, or you call the pro shop and you leave a message and it goes back. The generations now coming up are communicating through apps and communicating through other services. So, I was laughing internally to myself when you mentioned about, the phone number and that. I got to be honest, I don't know how many of these young guys would even pick up the phone and call me anymore because they're more interested in, hey, can I text you or can I do this? So, they're communicating in other ways because it's more efficient. And also, too, let's be honest, they're not used to picking up the phone and having to explain. They can just bump, and they, there it goes. They can send you the video. They can shoot that when they have a few minutes. They can, do whatever. So they found more efficient ways to communicate. So this is, again, a way that the coach can now get that information quickly. Doesn't have to be, returning. This was one of the pet peeves, years ago that a lot of coaches, you had to, get on the old predictive dial phone and, dial up all your clients and, give them a call and follow up and things like that. coaches don't have that kind of time anymore. So you need an effective way to communicate with your clients. And this is something, the integration of the app between student and coach is great, that you guys are offering. And, you know, I don't want to be, I would be remiss if I didn't mention for those, again, that maybe aren't as familiar with V1, is from the coach's perspective, you've got a great tool function to be able to isolate some of the issues, the swing plane, things like that. So there's, there's components built into the app for them to show certain things, certain points within the swing with lines, with circles, what have you, to be able to show their student and dial in on specific areas that need help or that are, deficient in some ways. So, I mean, it's a very robust and a side-by-side comparison. You're able to do all kinds of things with it. So it's very versatile. And so it's not just a matter of snapping. The reason I want to mention that, I don't want people to think it was just a matter of sending a video and that's it. There's other components that your app offers from the coach's perspective that's valuable to both the coach and the student to be able to get that real-time feedback. So I just want to make sure I got that in there for those that maybe aren't familiar with V1. So what has been, from your research that you've been doing on behalf of V1, from a student's perspective, let's get away from the coach for a second. What has been some of the top things that they've been looking for that's helped you decide when you've been revamping the last couple of years? What has been the feedback that you guys have gotten from them to say, this is what we'd like to see more of, this maybe not so much? What has been some of the feedback from some of the students that have been using V1 or that are coming to the app for the first time that maybe have been elsewhere and seen other things that they liked? What are some of the things that you guys have been picking up on?
I'm repeating myself to some extent, but I've been pleasantly surprised, but almost a level of shock at how many golfers that come, golfers, right, that come to the V1 Golf app do not have an instructor and want help in finding an instructor. I think we presumed, we did. I know at one point we kind of thought, it was men are from Mars and women are from Venus, but it was you have an instructor and the box is checked, and you don't, and there's a reason for it because you don't want one. Leave me alone, right? Yep. But there's really, it's fundamentally, if you want to improve at something, there's only really a few ways to improve. You can, consume everything yourself.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Right? And try to teach yourself. And that's what people are doing. By the way, pros, spoiler alert, your students are watching YouTube videos from other instructors, right?
Of course they are.
They're looking at anything and everything, right? So, right, teach yourself, if you will. Again, we talked about video, right? And so you teach yourself by watching yourself. So consume content, right? Watch yourself, or have an expert help you along the way. I mean, there's really a finite number of buckets, right? Maybe there's 2 or 3 others that, you can come up with, listeners can come up with in their heads. But having an expert guide you is one of the fundamental ways to improve at something. And so, in retrospect, it seems like simple, but again, at the time, we really thought that we call them affiliated and unaffiliated users, right? Are you affiliated with an instructor? Clearly, you have a very different relationship. We treat you differently. We're connecting you with the instructor. You're seeing a branded experience. Your instructor is being put front and center. Their content's being put right. I mean, you are like cabined off, if you will, right? We're obviously very purposefully respecting that relationship. And just to say, a detail here, but one of our kind of touchstones principles is this app is never going to, your student is never going to be charged to interact with you. If they choose to kind of grow, right, and go on their journey of self-improvement and they want premium tools, et cetera, they can do that and they can decide to pay, right? But we are not putting a paywall in any way, right, between the instructor and the student. There is that opportunity for the student, right, to proceed. We were shocked at that, 70, 80% of our users that are not affiliated with an instructor, they're not coming through this invite system that we built, et cetera. They are random people, random golfers who want to improve. And the average user the average active user, not paid or unpaid, all of them, spends over 21 minutes a month in our app. So the people that are here coming in, so these are little breadcrumbs that we saw, right? Wow, the people that are here, we peaked at just short of 100,000 monthly active users this summer. So 80,000 people a month in August spent 21 plus minutes a month in the V1 Golf app. And what we're finding is a big chunk of them, and I say a big chunk, it is not a majority of them. It's like 30%-ish right now, and it's a very ish number because it's December and there's all sorts of caveats there, right? But if we start to do that 80,000, math, there's a lot of people there that want an instructor. And that's our really unique opportunity, is trying to build that bridge. So then we said, okay, wow, this is really a thing. It's always lingering in our imagination, but we've tested it up to know there's something here. How are we going to do that? We've iterated a bunch of times. But sorry, your question was about the consumer and what do they want. And to your point earlier, maybe it doesn't manifest in an in-person relationship, right? Maybe it doesn't manifest in even a communication. Maybe it's just the content of an instructor, but people want help. I mean, our app is not for, we talked about growth during COVID, or you were talking about it at least, Ted, right?
Right. Yep.
This is not for the top golfer, right? It's just, fundamentally, right? The top golfer's not going to, go home and spend 21 minutes a month, looking at their swing. I mean, some do, right? But the person that's the only golf that they do, and they're more casual, and they're always going with friends. So it's a really high quality. Again, this is our theories. They've been borne out. And we have 40% of those, our coaches have a 40% batting average when, the student comes to them and they interact in continuing the relationship. So I think it's really interesting.
Right.
We're proving to ourselves that there's a high quality, if you will, group of golfers here, and that they really want an instructor. And I say that with the tone I do because we did not believe that. We had to kind of be convinced ourselves. And it's super fun and exciting to see it play out and to have some instructors tell us. We have one instructor. I'm keeping them anonymous just because I didn't get their permission to, share, I guess, in other lanes.
Right.
I could use
no,
them.
That's
but
fine.
we have one instructor at a resort course, and he said, Alex, look, we met with him at the PGA show. He's a great, resource, right? And he's kind of come on this journey for us. And he said, Alex, I've tried so many things to grow my business. Shooting a bunch of drills and hosting, with these bigger companies that have a big platform, et cetera. And he goes, I've gotten 0 out of all those efforts. I said, no way. 0?
Yeah.
I said 0.
Yep.
I've never been able to prove, and, so maybe there was something to those things, right? So they'd never been able to prove that is what brought someone to me, and no one has ever told me those activities. He listed several, right? Is there a reason that how I got on their radar, right? I said, I can't. But I can't believe that. He said, it's true. I've been doing this for, 25 years. It's true. So it's really exciting to, we had to, I think, change our minds. I mentioned the kind of the eat your vegetables concept. We had to reprogram our brains to be a solutions company. We talked about, my car metaphor and, the body and the engine and the gas tank, or the gasoline, the fuel. But we have reprogrammed our DNA to be a solutions company, and it's become more fun because, Ted, you call us and say, hey, tell me about V1 Coach, right? And we say, no. Well, Ted, tell me about your business. What are your pain points? What works for you? What doesn't? And you could say, hey, I already got a video analysis tool, right? I'm busier than I could ever be. I do a bunch of online stuff, and it's great. I think I saw, that you're moving around geographically, right? So my business doesn't go down when I spend my winters somewhere else. When I go bounce around, it doesn't matter. I'm great. And you go, I don't have a solution for you, Ted. Congratulations on your success. Best of luck. And, we don't have to convince anyone anymore, right? Because we've reprogrammed our minds to say we sell solutions. And so our job is identify or understand whether you have the problems that our solutions address. And if you don't, but if you do, we'd be really excited because we love to see you be successful, and it's going to be a really good partnership. It's been a fun evolution. This is my first rodeo as a CEO, so I've learned a lot, and I've been super, super thankful for this experience. And it's been so fun to watch everyone else kind of learn together. We're a fairly young organization, not by age, right, the organization itself, but the team. We're all learning together every day about ourselves and about how to do this, and it's been thrilling.
One of the things, Alex, about just thinking about the coach that you mentioned, there's a lot of them out there that certainly spin their wheels, do a lot of different things, and it's all good. But one of the things that goes to a point that you raised a few moments ago about accessing a lot of information elsewhere. One of the biggest hurdles that a lot of coaches are finding now is because of the onslaught of online teaching tools, online videos. YouTube is just loaded with them, some good, some bad. The problem that most coaches have is that they're spending, the first 15, 20 minutes of a lesson, identifying issues in a video that they didn't produce because the student's asking a bunch of questions. Well, why is it? Right. And so they have to change their mindset and recognize that, it's like this. I even find myself. So when I find something that I need the answers, what am I doing? I'm Googling it. I'm looking for it. I'm trying to find, okay, what's a video that I can find that will teach me this and teach me that. So it's a new way of learning for a different generation. And I think what's happening, and if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're really doing is instead of just saying, okay, here's our product and we think you should do it, you're trying to find solutions to navigate around some of the challenges that these coaches might be faced with and helping them grow their business, as well as helping them to streamline their business to be more effective in what they do and more responsive to their clients. So like you said, you're finding solutions to be able to help them do that. It's not just about throwing a product in front of them. And, there, as you said, there's going to be some that maybe have got more on their plate and don't, necessarily want any more, but there's still an opportunity for them to, again, be more efficient and maybe free up some time so that they're not, getting to the point by the time they're ready to retire, they're falling on the ground because they're exhausted. So, there's a marriage there somewhere. But no, I think it's great, and I think the approach that you're taking is in line with the way the market has been going for many years now, especially again since the onset of COVID. The marketplace has changed, and you either change with it or you become stale and stagnant and you fall by the wayside. So I kudos to you and your team for recognizing that and making the adjustments and pivoting to a solutions-based product and / service as opposed to just throwing out product like everybody else does. So I think that's good. Let's give the folks, as we only have a few minutes left, let's give the folks an opportunity. Where can they go to learn more? What's the website that they can go to get more information? And if they want to reach out to anybody on your team, is there a way that they can communicate, interact to get more information?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21+. Terms and conditions apply.
Please, if any of this resonated, again, for an exploratory conversation, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll loop in the team. It's very simple. It's alex@v1sports.com. It's V as in Victor, the number 1, sports.com. And that's where you can find us, too, v1sports.com. So, yeah, we learn, Ted, when we see people that are really successful, where we don't think we can solve their problem, we still reach out to them and say, hey, do you have 10 minutes? I'd love to hear your story because there's something for us to learn from you. So if you find any of this interesting, if these pain points sound like your pain points, or you think you just have some success stories that you'd like to share, again, we're a learning organization, and we're listening, and we would love to learn. But no conversation that we have with the golf instructor is a waste of our time because every single one, we learn a thing or two that makes us better. And hopefully we then turn that into a solution that makes more instructors better.
Well, that sounds good. I think it's great. V1 has always been a a great business out there, and as you said, have been there for a couple of decades. So they've definitely got their foothold in the market, and obviously they recognize, along with yourself and the rest of your team, that you have to make adjustments and changes as you go along in order to continue to service the marketplace, and you guys have done a great job. So again, the website is v1sports.com to get more information, and you can reach out to Alex at v1sports.com if you want to start that conversation. Alex, I'm going to send you an invite, not a physical invite, but a verbal invite. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to a little bit earlier on the program, but we have a segment called Coach's Corner, where we have a group of professionals that come on and we have conversations. And next year, I'm going to be moving to a new platform, which will include, of course, video. I'd like to invite you to come on next year on the panel to maybe talk about with some coaches some of the things that you guys are offering, some of the things you're doing, and allow them to maybe ask some questions of you if you'd be interested in participating.
Yeah, that'd be tremendous. I accept your invite, but I will only accept if you send me a physical invite. No, I'm joking. I would love to do it.
All right. Well, we'll set that up, and we'll go through the proper channels and all that, but I just wanted to put that out there. I think it would be a lot of fun. This is one of the things that I want to do with the show next year with the panel, and in addition to just interviewing guests, and I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to do that tonight and talk about some of the exciting things. I know that there'll be a lot more things coming in 2025, and I look forward to meeting with you down at the PGA show at the end of January and meeting face-to-face. But a lot of great stuff that you guys have been doing, and much continued success, and we will set something up in the new year when I come back on. This is my last show of the year for 2024, and then I'm on for an extended break. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to you coming back on a future show.
My pleasure, Ted. Thanks a lot.
All right. Yep. You have a great holiday, and thank you very much for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live.
Same to you. I'll see you in New
All right. That was Alex Prasad, the CEO of V1 Sports. As I mentioned, this is the last show of Golf Talk Live for 2024. We'll be doing an extended break, and we'll be starting up again sometime probably around the middle of February, if I was to hazard a guess, as I get ready. And for those of you that maybe tuned in a little bit earlier in the broadcast, I mentioned to you that the current platform, blogtalkradio.com, is actually closing its doors the end of January next year. So this platform will no longer be available. But not to fail, all of the archive shows, including tonight's show, recorded versions will be available at Spreaker.com for both this show and my Tuesday morning show with my good friend and co-host LPGA professional Cindy Miller. The Women of Golf show is available. You can just go to Spreaker.com and you can type in Golf Talk Live or Women of Golf, and you can go to those respective pages, and all of the archives for the last 12 years of Golf Talk Live and the last 11 years of Women of Golf are on there. And moving forward, we'll be going on to the Riverside.fm platform for both programs, which will include video. So I'm excited about that, as the guys and I were talking about on Coach's Corner. So looking forward to next season. I will let everybody know through social media when the official dates for both shows for startups will be, but it'll probably be sometime around the middle of February. Coach's Corner won't be starting up until the first Thursday of March of next year, so it'll be a little bit longer, but I usually start with a few warm-up programs in February just to get the season started off right. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for another terrific season here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all the best to everybody. Be safe this holiday, be good to your neighbors, and thank you for supporting this program, and I look forward to season 13 next year on Golf Talk Live. Have a great holiday, everybody, and I will see you in 2025. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.